Well, some of us think that our duty is to be what others want us to be at all times. That
Well,
others have expectations of us, and we have to abide by that, right?
right? That's not true though, because if you're not your authentic self, and that is the true for every person on this planet, that is the true reason, the biggest reason of the human experience. Not just all the little things that we experience, but it's really staying your authentic self, finding out who that is. You're a child, you don't know, you're just a child, right? And you're growing up, you're finding out who that is, you're finding your identity, and then staying true to that is a big part of being able to handle all the things that come your way, I guess. So you're always going to have things outside of you to deal with, but once you find that identity and stay true to who you are and keep your power, it somehow makes those things outside of you not that big of a deal, and it brings you peace. But yes, you don't want to identify what others expect of you, or feel you should be or do, because then you are giving your power away. That's giving your power away, and you're also giving your identity away of who you are as a person.
Welcome to Souls on Tap. I'm your host, Julianne Thon. Today's guest is a psychic medium and nutritionist coach who is known for her connection to the spirit world and her ability to channel a spirit named Erik, who many listeners may recognize from the Channeling Erik community. Through her work, she delivers messages not only to individuals seeking connection with loved ones who have passed, but also insights that are meant for the collective as a whole. Her philosophy centers on the idea that perception shapes our experience of reality, and that our ability to connect with the spirit realm is something we are all born with. It's simply a matter of remembering how. Through channeling, spiritual guidance, and healing energy, she helps people navigate grief, connect with spirit guides, and find deeper meaning and purpose in their lives. Please join me in welcoming back the amazing Ginger Bayley. Hi,
Thank
Ginger.
you. Hi. Thank you for that. Thank you.
So good to see
Uh,
you again, and so good to catch
Good to
up.
see you too. Good to see you too. Yes.
We always have to chat and get
Hmm.
everything out, and we can still
Yes.
chat for another hour and a half.
Yep. Yep. Play catch up and just chat, chat, chat,
Right,
chat.
right. So to all of you viewers out there today who are watching us, we're going to try something a little different. We're going to step into a thoughtful and very personal conversation as Ginger channels Erik, who, as I mentioned, is a loving spirit offering insight from beyond. Together, we're going to explore some of life's biggest questions about death and grief, purpose, love, and what it truly means to be human. This conversation is an invitation to listen with both your mind and your heart. But before we begin, for those of you who are not familiar with your story, Ginger, can you tell
Mhm.
us how Erik became such a strong presence in your life and your channeling?
So he is the first of all, Erik is always over here to my side. So when I'm looking that way, it's because I'm looking at him right over here to the side.
Hi, Erik.
Yeah, he's saying hi. He's saying hi. Thank you. Um, so he's kind of like my sidekick. So with with what I do, I wouldn't be doing this without Erik. He's the reason that everything started. Years ago, I didn't know it was him, but I'm just gonna. I seen an orb. Okay, just like you never see those with your own eyes usually. I mean, maybe some people do, but I never heard of it. Right, seen it with your own eyes, usually on TV or something. So I had seen an orb, right, and that got me going. That got me going. And during this time, my father was ill, and so I was, scrolling online about angels and just different things, maybe I could share with him. And when I seen that orb, then I started getting into orbs. And that's when I found his mother's channel. So Erik is the son of Elisa Medhus, Dr. Elisa Medhus, and he committed suicide years ago, and now they work together, and that is the way they help the world. They help others that go through loss in that way, or any way, for that matter. But that's how it started. So when he came into my life, I started watching the channel. And in that time, I started really coming into learning my gifts, which he was, a big part of that, showing me how to do that. And then when my father passed and I could see them both with me,
Hmm.
that's when it really took off.
Wow.
Uh, so, if we don't know people in life, this is important he's talking about right now. Sometimes we don't know others in life, right? We don't know them like talking to them face to face. But we do know them. We know them because we're connected spiritually. We know them in spirit,
Sure.
and from the other side. And that's why you may come across somebody sometimes and go, gosh, I really feel like I just know that person, or you feel something, because we are souls having a human experience. So with Erik, that's how he came to be in my life. And then I became a part of the channel because I started talking to his mom as I was watching. We would email back and forth, and became friends. And
I just
that's how Erik came into my life.
I just have to ask you, sorry for interrupting, but how did you know how did you know who his mother was and how you were supposed to get in touch with her?
So I knew her from the channel. Okay, so once I seen the orb, and then I started looking for orbs, and that channel came up, which I know now today that orb was him. I still have it on video.
Hmm.
And I started watching her channel, and I would, email her and talk to her and get to know her. But once I started getting into doing the spiritual, the psychic medium work, um, my mother, okay, who's also been on the show, with you that you've met, she kept trying to push me to be a part of the channel.
Love your
And I
mom,
was
by the
like,
way.
yeah, I
Love your
know.
mom.
Thank you. Thank you. She kept trying to push me to do that. I was like, no, 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 no. I can't do like those mediums do. That was like how I was. No, 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 no. And she's like, oh, you can. You're really good. You can. And I was, no, no, no. She's busy. She has enough. I just kept pushing it off. And the funny story about this is that she called me one morning and she says, don't be mad. Those were her first words. Yeah. Don't be mad. And
Oh,
she had written a letter, and to this day she says it all started with one mother to another, because the letters, and I'm getting chills. The top of the letter, the starting of the email was from one mother to another, and
ah,
she was telling her about me, even though she knew me. She's like, "Oh yes, I know Ginger," and they're talking. And then Elisa wanted to get together and see
that's
me
it.
and meet me,
That
like
is such
meet
a
me in
great
person.
story.
Yeah,
Such a great
yeah.
story.
I love it. I love it too. Yeah. So
Wow.
that's why I'm on that channel now, channeling Erik. So
And the thing, like that, some of you may not know, Ginger on this channel, as do a lot of the mediums that have been on channeling Erik, but Ginger is just really amazing at what she
oh, thank
does.
you.
And I'm always one of her biggest fans, really trying to let her know when I think that she's done something outstanding, because she's that good. So if you
Oh,
guys get a
nice.
chance, please watch Channeling Erik and get to know Ginger.
Thank you. Thank you.
Uh, okay, so let's get into our questions. And Erik, I hope you're ready. I know that you are. Stupid
Always.
question.
Always. It's like always.
So let's start with asking the question, what is the biggest misunderstanding that you'd say that humans have about death?
So one of the most misunderstood things, and there are many, but one of the most misunderstood is that it's an ending. Um, it's a transition. It's our true state. Um, it's actually it's actually our reality. So if you want to think of this that we're in as the dream, and in the spirit form, that is the reality side of it. So that would be the conscious side of it. And a lot of spirits I come across feel that way. They feel like they just woke up from a long dream. We're not, and something that's interesting too is that people, a lot of people that fear it because they feel like there's judgment, or that it's going to be scary, or it's going to hurt. I can say that a lot of souls that I've come across when we look at their passing, um, almost every single one of them talk about no pain with passing, even in traumatic events, no pain. And that has to do with a natural process. That's a natural process that we go through. You know, being spirits in a human body, we've been here before many times, and it's not something to fear. And when you are on the other side, there's no judgment. There's no punishment, no judgment. I was trying to listen to him to see if there was something else he wanted to add to this. Yeah, he's saying that you don't even have you're not really even human. You're just an energy, an existent energy. You are an extension, and we're extensions of source. And it's our true nature, but we still choose to come into an incarnation, whether it's a human incarnation or another galactic being incarnation, for growth. Because in spirit form, we don't have the, what is it called? The diversity. We don't have the spectrum. We don't have that contrast that we do in the human life, in the physical form. So that's the biggest. There's others that people, misunderstand about it. But that's the biggest, is thinking it's the end.
So thinking in terms of those of us in human form that lose people that we love, or realize that death is near for us, what do spirits wish that we knew about grief? Do they even experience grief, and does it affect them?
Spirits do not. And Erik, he keeps saying this in my ear, so I have to repeat it because he's trying to be funny. He's like, nobody
Erik.
gets out alive. Nobody gets out alive. And that's
Okay.
kind of like, you hear that, you hear that, but he's like making it his own joke today, it's his, joke.
Yeah.
But it is true. It is true, right? So it's a natural process of things. And more people should get used to that, used to not, hushing about it. It should be talked about. It should be talked about with children. It should be talked about in fear.
So
there should
true.
never be fear put with it. But it's a cycle of life. Animals go through everything. Plants go through it. It's a cycle. We all have this cycle, and it is necessary. It's just part of our human experience that we have. So when it comes to grief, something he's saying is that a grief is an expression of love. It's not a failure. So a lot of people have a lot of guilt when they're in grief. And the guilt isn't just about like what I could have done, what I should have done, or what I did and I wish I wouldn't have. It's also a guilt in feeling bad or feeling sad, like they don't want to feel this anymore, so they'll start feeling bad or feel guilty about it. It's really important to understand that grief is necessary for healing, very necessary. And it is, let's see what he's saying here. Okay, so he's saying, so love doesn't stop when somebody transitions. Love continues, and that's really what grief is. It's showing that, and let yourself heal, he's saying. Let yourself grieve. Let yourself go through that process. It's important. It's important to feel it and not judge it. Get rid of the judgment, get rid of the guilt of it. And just know that it will pass. It's so important to hold on to that it's not always going to feel that way. It will pass, because one thing that's constant, and I'll probably repeat this over and over because he does like a broken record, is that, what's constant in our life is change, and things don't stay the same. That's one thing you can count on. So it does get easier. It does get better. And there is life after loss, of a loved one.
That's just so important to remember. And yet when we are in the midst of grief, when we're really at its heaviest point, it's hard for us to realize that at some point that grief will start to lessen little by little. And
that's okay. And that's okay. Mm-hmm. Be kind to yourself, he says. Be patient and kind to yourself.
Mm-hmm. So speaking specifically to parents who have lost a child, What do you want parents who have actually gone through that to understand?
So I just have to say really quick, the reason why like I take deep breaths and try to like calm is because his energy is very hyper and I'm not, a hyper person. So I'm like just calming the energy when I do that. It's just because he vibrates, so high.
Yeah.
So okay. So first of all, there's really nothing you can say in the moment that this happens because of that heaviness of the grief. So, in that moment, but there are things you can say, of course. He's saying, he's just talking about how hard it is to penetrate that grief. That energy is such a very thick, heavy energy. And that's needed. That's needed for the healing. But he says that grief with meaning sometimes can ease the pain, like putting meaning behind it. Um, it's not, it didn't happen for nothing, I guess is how to say it. It's not a waste. It's not something that wasn't supposed to happen. So that's important, he says. Everything that happens that we go through is necessary. So it's in the way you look at it. And that's with most things, right? That's with most things is perspective. But he's saying it's in the way that you look at it. But with parents and a loss of child, it's really hard until they get to that point to listen and accept that. And that doesn't, and he's not meaning that is as in a negative thing, like they're not listening. He means that you're not ready yet, and that's okay because there's a healing process that has to happen. Let's see, blame. He's saying release that blame, release that guilt. That's really important. Don't think about past things as what you should have said or shouldn't have said, or what was done or wasn't done. If there were arguments or fights or any of that, he's saying don't torture yourself with that, because everything you go through is necessary. Everything, no matter what it is, it's necessary for your experience here. Mm-hmm. So the most important thing he says is letting go, release that guilt. He's saying that it keeps love trapped in the past if you don't let that go, is what he said.
Yeah, so, I've heard that of all of our emotions, that guilt is one of the emotions that is the most destructive. And I'm so glad that you and Erik pointed that out, that a lot of us sometimes have survivor's guilt as a parent who've lost a child. Like, why didn't it happen to me? Why didn't God take me? Why did it have to happen to my child? Another thing, like you said, you alluded to unresolved arguments. Wish I hadn't said that, and try not to go there.
Right. And that happens even with people who lose any loved one too, but especially with the child. And I'm getting chill. He's like making me have these really strong chills. He's saying that guilt says that guilt says that I failed, and love says that I cared. So he's saying, it's really important to see it that way, because the guilt isn't something that's necessary for the healing, is what he's saying. Yeah, he just keeps talking about just, you will find purpose again. You will find a way through. He says there's never a way around, but you will find a way through. And then there's always that shoulda, coulda, woulda too. If I could have saved them, or if I could have helped them when it was maybe something like an incident that happened or an accident, something that you feel like you have control over. That's another thing. Let go of that, because everything that happens, it happened because it was supposed to. It's important, he said.
Yeah, that helped me a lot in the death of my child, in that, he was only 9.5. And because of my belief system that we have certain exit points, and we'll choose to go during that exit point, that helped me a lot, knowing that this was something that was basically planned.
Right. Oh, so he said, I got to tell you something really quick. He's saying, when it comes to what you were saying about choice with the exit point, he's saying that it's not because if a soul chooses to go, it's not because they don't love you and don't want to be with you. He's saying that's important to know that too. It's because it is necessary for the person that's still here or the people connected to that person still here. It's important for their journey. So he's saying, let me give you an example really quick. If, and this doesn't ever happen, but he's saying, if say the soul decided, no, I'm not going to follow through what was planned, and I'm going to stay here. He says, then you've just robbed everybody from their plan that they pre-made when they came in of what they were going to learn, the lessons, not just lessons. I don't want to just use that word because that word is, I think, used too much, but experiences and challenges that they were going to have here. So if that makes sense, so it's important to remember that they're not the only ones on the journey, the soul. So it's not like they're leaving because they don't want to be here with anybody. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the pre-planned journey that was, the life plan that was made.
Right. And perhaps we even agreed to that plan that, they would go at this particular time or this particular way. And
absolutely,
the forgetting happens as our memory is sort of wiped clean when we come here for reasons that I understand. I don't know. It would be very difficult to function in both worlds.
Well, that's like having the questions to the test. How are you going to learn it?
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, on a little bit of a lighter note, I'm anxious to see what Erik will say about this. And I think he's answered this question several times, but how do spirits see our daily lives, or do they? And if so, what surprises spirits most about the way that we as human beings live?
So something that he's saying is there's never really a surprise in heaven, is the way he just said it. Like he's putting heaven on there. And I mean, it's a spiritual plane is what I've always called it, but he's kind of making like he wants to be poetic. There's never really a surprise in heaven, right? He's saying that you have to have awareness or you have to have lack of awareness and you have to have assumption to have surprise. So, but when you're in spirit, you have so much awareness and no assumption. You don't have you don't have to assume. You just know. You have a knowing, I guess. I feel like sometimes I'm not making sense, but he's saying like you have to have awareness, and he's saying our human brains can't even comprehend the type of awareness a soul has without this physical limitation that we have. So nothing really surprises them, especially because they also see the path that everybody's on and what's needed for it. But something that he is saying that if you want to look at it as a surprise, most surprises come when they leave the body and they're surprised at what they find at that point. So it's not so much about people still here, he's saying it's more so in their own personal experience when they leave the body, and how surprising it is because you can't comprehend that in your human mind of how wonderful it feels and how safe it really is.
Right. I've talked to several people who have had near-death experiences that have been on the show here, and a lot of them have said it was surprised of how easy it was. They just literally popped out of their body. And they're sitting there looking at it going, wow. Once they realized what was happening, they're like, well, that wasn't hard.
And it's natural. It's a natural feeling, because it is a process that we've done many times, in many other lives, if you're looking at it in a linear point of view. But something he's saying is, although they don't have surprises about anything with anything that we do here, he's saying that there are things that we do that you learn when you leave. And again, there's no judgment, but sometimes you'll think about it. Like, it's almost like when you're watching a show or something and it's like you're like, okay, and you see, but they don't, like maybe they're in a race or something. He's trying to give me this example and you can see and they don't. And you're like, come on. It's just right there. It's right there.
Right?
So he's like showing on the other side, like, come on, you're almost there. You almost got it,
That is such a great analogy. That's perfect. That's so great. That reminds me, Erik, you'll get a kick out of this. That reminds me of a time I was a little girl and I was watching football on the television. Excuse me, with my father. And I kept seeing these men grab the ball and then they would run. And then this group of men would come and they would tackle him. And
Oh.
so I finally looked at my dad and I said, Daddy, why don't they just go around all the men?
That's good. I love that.
Because of the perspective that I was looking at
Yeah.
it in. And
Yeah.
that's what it
Right.
seemed like.
Right.
So,
Right.
so
Right.
anyway, well, and you mentioned something earlier. You said that Erik wasn't crazy about the word lessons, but what do souls on the other side say is the real purpose of being human?
So, although, and I want to address that because you said about the lessons part. The reason why is because so many people um, feel like, and I've heard this so much, from people that, and I get it, I understand it. I'm tired. I'm done. No more lessons, please. And of course, it's not always about just lessons, but I hear that a lot, and so they think that most everything that they're going through is a lesson when it's not. It's sometimes it's just an experience. Even though it might teach you something, it's not like lessons usually feel more necessary, right? And so when I hear them say that, I hear Erik in my head going, let them know, be careful when you're done learning, kind of make them like, then you're done, right?
Right.
But it's not just learning, it's not just lessons. So, souls,
Uh,
and to answer your question, go ahead. Did you have a
I was going
question?
to say that
Oh,
learning continues on the other side, right?
absolutely. Absolutely. It does. It's not as much as it is in spirit. I mean, as in a physical life as it is as a spirit, but you still learn some. It's very little though. And that's actually going into the the next question that you asked. He's talking about yeah, he's going he's saying like, so souls incarnating, it's our nature. So that's our nature. That because like I've heard this question before too. Like why do we want to incarnate? Why won't we just stay where it feels so great and wonderful? That's our nature. It's our nature to do that. And we are extensions. We're extensions of source, right? And if you can imagine not being able to know what it's like to have a brownie, okay? You've never had one in your life and someone else is explaining it to you, but you've not tasted it or anything. So they can tell you how it smells, how it looks, what it tastes like, what it's all about, what the ingredients are, but you really don't know until you taste it. You don't know it fully. And so imagine source and a loving intelligence, not a person, a loving intelligent, right? And we are extensions having experiences, and then source experiences through us. We experience through each other. That's why we're all connected. So it's really about that growth that we yearn for. Now, when you're in spirit, you don't sit and go, oh my gosh, I'm yearning. I can't, I need this, because you really feel like you don't need anything except you're wanting it like a child, like a child wanting to go to the playground because you see the end result. You see what your soul's getting, the evolution it's getting, and it's just our nature. It's your nature to do it. Like an animal hunts, it's our nature to incarnate. So,
Speaking of our nature, is it our meaning human beings, is it a part of our nature to worry? And so what do we worry about here on earth that just doesn't matter? What's spirit's perspective?
I was looking for my little plaque. It fell. Yeah,
Oh,
plaque here. I must have moved it. It's about worry, is why I was looking for it. It's don't be a worrier, be a warrior, is what it says on it. But
that's great.
no, worrying, we do it, okay, and it is part of the everything's part of the human experience. Everything's necessary. It doesn't just because something matters. He's saying it doesn't mean that it should be worried about. So just because things matter don't mean that they should be worried about. And just because it's something that is part of growth doesn't mean that you have to do it, I guess, if that makes sense. So he's saying worry comes from lack of control, putting an expectation on the end result,
Don't I know?
worrying about making the right decision or choice. You you know you'd have, and this is easier said than done, by the way, because we're human and we do these human things because we're learning and we're experiencing and we're teaching others. So it's teaching, learning, experiencing, all those things are why we're here. So if you didn't worry about what direction to go or what choice to make and just know whatever you're drawn to is necessary, you'd have a lot more peace in your life, he says, because you really don't control that outcome anyway.
Mm-hmm.
You don't.
Mm-hmm.
You have no control over how it turns out. You only have control over you and how you let things affect you and the choices you make. And if you go a direction and it doesn't end up the way you were hoping or wanting, you have to change your perspective as I need that. That's why it happened. Not it
Mm-hmm.
happened because I made the wrong choice, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So,
That's so true. And you know, those of us who like to think of ourselves as more evolved or advanced in the spiritual world, if you're not careful, you can start to go down that rabbit hole of worry. And when you are worrying, you're not trusting yourself. And if you're not trusting yourself, you're not trusting God or the universe or
right, right,
whatever you want to call it.
right.
It's
Something bigger than yourself,
right.
something
And
bigger than you.
I have to remind myself of that often, because boy, do I love to worry. Love to worry.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
what's something about love, shifting from worry to love? What is something about love that we as humans completely misunderstand? Keeping in mind there's romantic love, soulmates, attachment, that kind of thing.
Um, okay, so he's saying that love, this is interesting. So lose my voice for some reason. Probably allergies. Most the most misunderstood thing is that love is a feeling. Okay, it's not a feeling. It's not a feeling. It's a way to relate. It's a way to relate. It's a state of being. So when you look at it as a feeling, I mean, of course, psychologists or some say that's a feeling. Tell your feelings. So it's 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 more about um, no expectations. He's naming off these things right now. He's going. It's a way of it's a way of relating to patients. It's compassionate. It's no expectations. It's unconditional. He's saying, and he's saying that it shouldn't need to be reciprocated. So one of the biggest problems with relationships when people have issues and problems in them. And as I'm talking about this, I want to let people know out there, me, Ginger, okay, I'm still human. I'm not perfect. Okay. This is information coming from spirit. Um, that they're in love with an idea of love, maybe, or they're looking for love because they're missing something inside and they're trying to fulfill that in them. But nothing outside of you is going to fulfill that, because if you rely on these things outside of you, people, places, or things, to feel that love or feel good inside of you and have fulfillment, the second that any of it leaves or changes, then you're going to be unhappy. And so having expectations like that on love causes a lot of problems in relationships. It's a misunderstanding in a way. And it's not a way someone treats you as, you don't love me because you don't do this or that. Um, because when you do love somebody, you treat them in a way that is the way you want to be treated, he says. So, and we're all still learning this, by the way. I mean, nobody's perfect. There's no perfect relationship, because that's why we come here, right? To experience and teach and learn. But he's showing, like, you want to give of yourself. Don't expect, he's saying, more from others than you're willing to give of yourself. And a lot of times somebody will do something over here, and I'm going to give you an example. You have a man and a woman, and the person decide, one of the partners, okay, this isn't a sexist thing, but one of the partners, maybe the guy, decides to cheat, but he doesn't want the girl to cheat, right? So, and then he doesn't be honest, but he wants her to be honest. So, or versa versa. Okay, that happens both ways, both sides. So it's all about that fulfillment within first, and then whatever out here,
Mm-hmm.
happens, whatever's going on out here, it doesn't matter anymore. Like it matters, but it doesn't matter how you feel inside. It's not going to change that.
Mm-hmm.
So
So
yeah, he says that, so it's most important. He's saying you can't find love until you have at least that love within you, true love.
That was going to be my next question. Is that true? Do we have to
Yes.
learn how to love ourselves before we can find love through
Yes.
someone else?
Yes. Yes.
Have you ever felt an unexplainable fear? A deep connection to a place you've never been? Or patterns in your life you just can't seem to break? These aren't random thoughts. These are to look deeper, to heal, to remember. At JT Introspective Hypnosis, I help you access the answers already within you through the power of guided polydimensional travel and the place your soul takes you in order to heal. Because the truth is, you're not lost. You're just waiting to be found. Learn more and book your session at www.julianathon.com.
True love, because a lot of people are in relationships where they feel like they're in love, right? But a lot of it is they're in love with the idea. They're in love with what they get used to people. There could be people together for 30 something years, and they're really just in love with the idea or maybe even the material things. Everybody has their own motive for what they think love is or what they want.
Sure. You and Erik just said something that really sort of took me aback slightly, and that's that sometimes we think love is about, well, this is how I want or expect this person to treat me. And I have seen that regarding people who don't have the self-love. They don't realize it, but subconsciously their expectation of how they want to be treated is really not well. Maybe perhaps somebody that's had an abused childhood or was abused by several other relationships. They misunderstand that as love. So they think that they're asking for this kind of love, and in reality, because they don't love themselves, they're asking for the kind of love
it's a
that
security.
is not healthy. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's a security. So understanding or misplacing, what is the word I'm looking for? Security for love.
Mm-hmm.
They want love, but that's not security. Love isn't security. You don't need to be reciprocated when it's love. It will be, but it doesn't need to be to be love. So what's important, though, he says, as humans, that we do have these relationships and these things happen in our life, though, for a reason, and they're teaching us things. They're teaching us things, plus they're helping us break patterns. I mean, there's so many little bits in there of why we experience a lot of this, in our lives. But it is important to remember, loving yourself first will make any love that comes your way a lot better. It's an added thing.
Is it true then, those of us who put particular, and I'm going to use the word lesson for lack of a better word.
Oh yeah, there's lessons. There are definitely lessons. Yes.
So if we put those lessons in our lives path, what happens if we put lessons there and we never learn them? We choose not to learn them or not to work through them. Do they continue to repeat in future lives?
Now I just lost I was laughing, and then my head's like an Etch-a-Sketch. I'll start to move or laugh, and then I just lose that thought, just goes away. So you know what I mean? So now what were you asking me?
What,
you were saying,
what if we choose not to learn our lessons?
Oh,
then do those lessons keep happening to us as we reincarnate until we learn them?
So from what I've learned, now I know there's a lot of other psychic mediums out there, and there's different belief systems, and I want to clear that up really quick, because it's not about the guide always, it's about the person that is translating. Okay. But from what I have got, and seen from Erik, okay, this is a choice. It's not something like karmic debt that you're forced to do. We choose it. We choose if we want to continue, like if, say, somebody doesn't quite get all the way as far as they wanted on their path here before they left, because free will does change that, right? Which I'm sure we're going to talk about a little bit today, but free will does change that, because free will is the path that gets you to the destination, which is the thing that the bigger thing you're supposed to experience. So it's not that you have to, he says. It's a choice. And most of the time we choose to do it, because yeah, I want to do it. We're like little kids in a candy store, and it's like, oh my gosh, I want that. I want that at the end there. I want that giant, I don't know, gummy candy bear,
Right.
kind of thing. That's what he just stuck in front of me, was this big jelly candy bear. I don't even like gummies, but it's just funny because it looks good, right?
Right. Right.
And I can smell it. It's like a cherry smell. I love that smell. So the kids seeing that at the end, it's like they don't look at the path as much, even though we as spirits do. So I want to make that clear. But that you get excited, so you don't remember or think about what the details of what you're going to go through. You just know they're all going to be important. So yeah. So it's a choice. It's free will. Everything's free will.
So yeah, I used to think used to what I believe was a misunderstanding of karma. And I used to think it was more of a punishment, like keeping tabs. And
I've heard that before.
I don't now. I feel like it's more of a balance. It's like, well,
yes, balance.
Again, like you said previously, that your explanation of, and Erik's explanation of taking lessons and experience back to source.
Right.
So that source understands what it means to taste that brownie, right? That it couldn't without our experience. So
right.
I think that's great.
Right.
So
right. And it is, and karma means balance, by the way. That's what karma means, is balance. So it is about balance.
I did not know that.
Absolutely.
Wow. Cool. So see how smart I am?
You're very smart. We can't know everything on this planet. I know I don't.
Yep. That's
and I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want to know everything.
Right. Oh,
that's a little too much responsibility for me.
I said something to somebody the other day. The more I know about everything, the more I realize I don't know anything about anything.
Yeah. Wasn't that a saying? I think there was like a famous person that said, the more you think you know, the more you know, the less you know, or I can't remember what it was, but it was really good.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Saying. Yeah.
Okay, so shifting gears a little bit, let's talk about if you and Erik can explain to us what happens in a sudden death, somebody who gets into an accident, or somebody is talking to you 1 minute and boom, they just fall over with a heart attack and go.
So when somebody, I'm gonna get to the traumatic, passing, but first, when somebody is dying, okay, and say it's natural, the natural death, or they get sick, or cancer even, it doesn't have to be natural, but they just have kind of this knowing, their soul has time to adapt, their physical body has time to adapt. Okay, now even though it's natural, leaving the body and going to the other side, there's still a window there of that transition of leaving the physical world. And so there's an adaptation that we have, right, to what is it called, Erik? What is it? I'm going to get this word. When there's to adapt and prepare. Thank you. To prepare. So adaptation and preparation, for that. So when somebody passes in a traumatic situation, it's really quick like that. That's done when you leave the body, that adaptation. So there's a certain amount of healing. Now, depending on how they left, whether it was self-done or maybe, homicide even, there's a certain amount of healing that's done, because that is the part that helps you adapt to it, if that makes sense. So like Erik went through that after he left his body. He went through a certain time frame of that. And also sometimes because we have a life review when we pass, which isn't like where you just go watch a movie and then you're good and you go. It's kind of a process. It's almost like a process you go through. And that's also part of healing, of leaving, and the preparation and the adaptation too. But when you leave so suddenly, it doesn't hurt the soul. It doesn't hurt the soul. Okay. But there's just no time for that period of your body getting used to the separation, I guess is the way to explain it.
I think, except it happens in a bit of an opposite way. I can imagine it's similar in a physical sense of the baby that it comes from this amazing environment, warm, safe, etc.,
Oh, yes.
out into lights, camera, action.
Yeah.
The
Put me
noise.
back.
I'm freezing. It's cold.
Yeah.
Everything. There's giants around me. But except that I would think that, well, I don't know. Do some people go through a transition, and are they scared sometimes when they go to the other side? Do they go, I mean, what?
I have to say that very rarely does this happen. Okay, so this isn't to put fear out there, because that's one thing that Erik and I never want to do, because fear is not necessary. You never have anything to fear.
Right.
That if there's somebody who's put this in a part of their plan, their life plan, that when they do cross over, they may have a different experience than they've had before, and that's just a little bit part of their journey still. That's why you hear some NDEs talk about, oh, I seen a dark place, and it was just like I thought I was in hell. There's also your perspective does that, right? Your belief system can do that. But it's very quick to feel that peacefulness. There's a peace that comes over you as soon as that happens. So he's saying, I wouldn't say so much there's fear to this, but it can be part of someone's life plan. And it's very rare. And it's very, very little. Like if you want to have measurement on the other side, very just not very long.
Okay.
And he says it's not because of the traumatic passing. You just want to make that clear. It's not because of the traumatic passing.
Good. Because
that would
important.
be somebody's journey. Yeah, he says that would be somebody's journey's choice. That's their choice to experience that. And it's very rare. So
okay. Very good. So shifting a little bit again. So what do spirits wish that we knew about forgiveness? Because I know it's really important in the work that I do in hypnosis. People that are carrying a grudge, that again having to do with self-love, how sometimes that is intertwined with forgiveness. Is it something that's required, or who is forgiveness specifically for?
The individual that's giving it. The individual that's giving it. So no, that was good. He's showing like, so when you forgive somebody, you're not saying what you did is okay. That's not what it's about. It's not saying, okay, you hurt me and that's all right, or whatever it is that somebody did that you're forgiving. That's not giving like, okay, there's a free pass there, you got away with that. That's not what it is. And a lot of people feel that if they forgive, that's what it's going to do. Now, even if you don't forgive to somebody's face, or they don't know you're forgiving them, it's still important for you to do it in your heart, because it's very low and dense vibration to carry around that feeling of unforgiveness. Okay. It can also cause you to, have some health issues. And this doesn't mean, because I've heard people talk about, oh, you cause your own cancer, you cause your own problem. Those things are set predetermined, but you can still have these health issues that come up that are not something so as severe as cancer, but it can cause you to get a rash, or, like worry does sometimes. It can cause some things within your body. So, and not just with forgiveness, other things like hate, lower dense vibration, ways of feeling, not just thinking, but feeling, because that's all energy. It's very powerful. So it is for the person that gives it. He says forgiveness should never, you should never expect, it should never need reciprocated. It shouldn't need to be reciprocated. It shouldn't need to be accepted to be forgiveness. Like if they don't accept it and say, I accept your forgiveness, it doesn't mean you didn't forgive them, because it's about you, not them. Because we can't control what others, think they'll say or do. So that's what forgiveness is about.
I just feel like if we as human beings are carrying resentment with us, it's as if we are imprisoning ourselves. And I do believe, because I've seen it happen with myself and in other individuals, forgiveness really is analogous to freedom. I really believe that.
Oh, and you give your power away, he just said. You're giving your power away, and it's not even just with that. It's with anything that you're allowing others to make you feel.
My dad he had a great analogy that he used to use, that resentment and hatred was like pouring a little bit of poison, expecting to give it to somebody that you're really angry with, and instead you drink it yourself.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, that's true, because it is poisoning to the system. It is. Absolutely. You're not hurting anybody else by being angry at them. You're not hurting anybody else by not forgiving them, holding grudges, having ill will towards anybody. All that does is it comes back to you, because we reflect. We're reflections, okay, of each other. We're reflections. Plus, what you put out, you get back, and usually you get it back more than when you put it out, like a wave. You put the wave goes out, comes back bigger, like that. So that's what our feelings do, and our thoughts and our words.
So that goes into another question I'm going to ask a little bit later about our power, but until then, here's another question that is, for some reason, I've been hearing a lot lately. Are we ever truly alone as human beings?
No, absolutely not. Matter of fact, Eric's like, if you could see in every frequency of every, dimensional frequency there is, he says you would want to run and hide, not fear, but just to have some peace and quiet. He's like making a joke, like how much there is around us that you don't see or hear. Or well, most people can feel it if they paid attention, right? You have guides. You at least have, everybody has at least, this is what I was shown, is everybody has at least one guide that comes in with them from the time you're born until you transition, until your incarnation is done. And it's always going to be somebody, not from this life, but from, not the, I put quotations, always guide, I call it, from another life, somebody you had that was close to you in another life, or somebody that you have a close connection with in another life. Usually that's who it is. And somebody's very similar in vibration to you. And then others will come in, guides, angels, fairies. I had a friend of mine, she gets the best pictures. She's up in the mountains here in the Sierras, at the northern part of California. And she sent me these pictures that she got with these two spirits. I couldn't believe it. I thought it was AI when she first sent it. And I was like, is that your portrait or is that AI? These two spirits, and then these two other little orbs that went. And the first thing I hear Erik go, look at those fairies flying by, right? And they come out of this bush and they flew. It was really neat. I'm getting chills. But these fairies, they're here too, and people think that's just all, woo-woo, but it's not. It's real. And it's all part of this whole universal, not just Earth plane, but all different dimensional planes. So no, you're never really alone. Never.
To speak specifically about elementals and fairies and that type of thing, I heard and have read that the reason we don't see them clearly as while we're walking through the forest, not all of us anyway, is because they actually exist in a different dimension. But if they want to be seen, they will come to 3D very quickly and let you see them.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. And it's hard nowadays because people have, the AI, it's hard to tell what's real. I always I'm from the 80s here. Is it real, or is it, Mirrorless kind of thing, in my mind. So, but it's hard to tell now, but there have been, if you go back in the beginning when YouTube was really new, they did have some things that were posted that were real, fairies, and they're all different. It's not like, Tinkerbell. It's different. They can have, some of them have like a little humanoid shape, but it's just different. Just like mermaids are real, unicorns are real. I mean, it's all different dimensional beings, and dimension means frequency. And just like we're changing our frequency here, and we're going up to it's not fifth dimension, it's the fifth. There's a word now. Ascension it's like a sequence, like I can't think of the name of it now. I always forget this word. Why do I always forget this word? It's not dimension. It's not the fifth dimension. It's a
fifth realm.
It's a vibration. No, it's like it starts with an S, I think, but it's a fifth. We're going into a different frequency, is what we're doing, and there will be times he's showing me, there'll be times where we do see this and it'll just be like, oh, it's normal, yeah, just like butterflies. We see butterflies, we'll see a fairy go by and it'll be normal. So as we're going into this ascension,
Well, and
that
I'm
word's going to bug me now.
well, I know. And if you think about it, go ahead and shout it out.
I will.
Or else it'll be on your mind all night.
I know. It's crazy.
So yeah, the thing about elementals and all, like you said, they're just different. They're not necessarily looking like Tinkerbell, these fairies.
Yeah.
I would imagine they look like however what they need to look like in order to exist in that dimension, or whatever word you're looking for.
Right. And there's different, just like you have different forms of bees or, ants. There's different species of them too. So kind of cool. Yeah. And I think it's density. Fifth density is the word I was looking for.
Density. There we go. Begins with a D. Yeah. You said S, and I've been racking my brain trying to think of an
I'm sorry, because I'm getting the density, and I'm thinking of that part of the word. So I'm thinking, and then I got ascension stuck in my head. Me and words, I swear.
Yeah, I know. And then you're also trying to translate it, because I get that you don't hear. You've said that you don't. It's not like a typewriter. Erik doesn't type sentences and then you read them. You have to see them in a different way. And anyway, so so that's enough.
Never alone.
Right. Never alone. That's enough about that. So now you mentioned something. Well, actually, Erik said something about giving our power away. So what do souls wish we understood about our own power? And do we have a tendency as human beings to misunderstand or underestimate ourselves?
So, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. We do. So something that he's showing is the way we're getting there, right? We're evolving, but the way that we are so used to thinking, is this physical, the 3D, the physical is the way our thinking is, and the logic. And that's why it's so hard to understand why bad things happen. If you want to use bad, honestly, in my world, Ginger's world, I don't see good or bad. It's more so what's needed of the experience, right? But our minds are geared that way. And so when it comes to changing that perspective, it's really about trying to see things from a spiritual point of view, seeing things from a spiritual point of view. And so he's showing me, you don't realize that sometimes what you say or what you think or what you feel is giving your power away, he's saying, because you're so used to just thinking, saying, and feeling things. You don't think about it being given. Like if somebody is in an abusive relationship, and it's a mentally abusive, right? Psychologically, emotionally. A lot of times those will stay longer because you're not getting hit. You're not getting a black eye, because it's almost like he's putting it kind of like, and not all of them, but some, like the frog in water, where it heats up and they don't know until, oh my gosh, now I'm programmed to all this. So what they're doing is they're giving their power away, because he's talking really fast. I'm trying to keep up here. They give their power away.
Erik, slow down.
Yeah, I know. It's like all this stuff's coming in. I want to get it out,
All right.
They give their power away, but they're not realizing that they're doing that by taking what someone else says about them and using that as their identity. So that's one way, that's a lot. But when you compare yourself to others too, like, which is very common for us, because that's still that archaic part of us, that caveman, that, if you had to compare, who's going to procreate, who's going to be the healthiest one to go get the, firewood, that kind of thing. That's very, very deep within us still. So we compare and we compete.
So it comes from literally from survival.
Yes, survival. And we are getting away from that, as in we'll still be survivors, but it's not as in our emotional part being that part of the survival, right? It's going to be more of a different level of thinking in a way of surviving. And so what he shows is there's many ways to give your power away, but one of the main things that we do, and it's part of our growth here and experience, is letting others tell us who we are. or letting others, make us feel a certain way, you know, identifying yourself through others' eyes in a way. And that's giving your power away, as little as somebody, I guess, would be like saying something to hurt your feelings and you allowing that to hurt your feelings, or at least continuing to allow it, because of course we're human, we feel, but not holding on to that and not taking it as truth. That's giving your power away when you do that, when you take that as truth and you hang on to it. Does that make sense? So we do it without thinking. We really do. And more people are, as the ascension happens, more people are being more aware of this.
Well, some of us think that our duty is to be what others want us to be at all times. That what others have expectations of us, and we have to abide by that. Right?
That's not true, though, because if you're not your authentic self, and that is the true for every person on this planet, that is the true reason, the biggest reason of the human experience. Not just all the little things that we experience, but it's really staying your authentic self, finding out who that is. You're a child, you don't know, you're just a child, right? And you're growing up, you're finding out who that is, you're finding your identity, and then staying true to that is a big part of being able to handle all the things that come your way, I guess. So you're always going to have things outside of you to deal with, but once you find that identity and stay true to who you are and keep your power, it somehow makes those things outside of you not that big of a deal, and it brings you peace. But yes, you don't want to identify what others expect of you, or feel you should be or do, because then you are giving your power away. That's giving your power away, and you're also giving your identity away of who you are as a person. Shouldn't care. I don't care. I don't care who I used to. That was how I was kind of raised too. I think a lot of people from our era was raised that way too. Right. I think we're breaking that cycle, I think, now in the later generations. But I didn't mean to interrupt you, but Erik's he's like making fun, like teasing, like, I don't care anymore. It's just, it is who it is. And if they don't like me, then they're not meant for me.
I started to say my husband loves this term. He loves this phrase when I will start going down that path of, I don't understand what I did. I don't understand what I said. Why? He'll finally look at me after I've been doing this for a week or so. He'll say to me, "Why are you letting that person live rent free in your head?"
Yeah, that's a good one. I like that. Yeah, that's a good one.
I thought Erik would like that one too. So
yeah, I love it. Yeah, he's like, yes, very good, very good. But it's true, and that's kind of our nature in a way, a little bit of our nature as humans, and we're evolving away from that. It's important to be liked, and these are things that are, to some people, that's why they do that. They want to be liked. They don't want to be judged. But here's the thing. And I learned this a long time ago, and this is something I play in my head over and over. I can't control what anybody thinks, feels, says, or does. All right. And if it doesn't matter how hard I try, there's going to be people that don't like it, or don't like what I have to say, or don't like me. And that's okay. And when you're okay with that, then you'll feel lighter. You'll feel better, inside, because you don't need everybody to like you or approve of you. And you don't need that outsider. There's a lot of people that need approval, that approval of others.
Oh, I know. And something that I feel like I need to point out here. We're not talking about the kind of behavior that a narcissist would bring forward. Like, a narcissist doesn't care what other people think, because they're coming from a very self-centered perspective. They don't care if they hurt other people, and they don't care as a result with that. Some narcissists absolutely care what other people think. They think that they have to be loved by everyone, but it's not the same thing as
no, absolutely not. And it's not a behavior so much. That's a behavior in the way this is Erik saying this. That's their behavior, their self-centeredness. But when you're not caring what others think in that kind of way, it's not so much not taking in consideration of what someone's saying or doing. It's when it's pointed towards you, the sword is coming right at you, that's different. You're pushing that sword away is how he's showing, like that you're pushing that away. So when is pointed about you personally, attacking who you are, or maybe you're seeing it that way because it is perspective too.
Right.
He says that's what that's about. It's not letting that get to you. So instead of taking the word I don't care, which I think sometimes helps a little bit because that's what we understand it to be, right? Because we're caring so much what people think. But if you want to take that out of it and look at it as I'm not allowing them to tell me who I am. I'm not allowing them to tell me what to do. I'm not allowing them to tell me how to feel, that kind of thing. But you do take others' opinions into consideration. Be okay with it, though. This is important, he says out there, especially right now in the world. Be okay when people have different opinions. Let them be who they are. Don't try to change or control what others think or feel. Because you're doing that, think about it, you're doing that for yourself to feel better. Always look at your motive of doing that.
That's so true. You have to remember that whatever decision we make, because we do have a choice. We have a choice.
Absolutely.
So the minute we get up in the morning till we go to bed at night, we make choices all day long. And we decide for ourselves how we want to perceive our world. Right. So that said, this is a really important topic. Erik, what do you and your colleagues, your fellow spirits, see is happening right now with humanity from your perspective? The world is crazy, and the United States seems almost crazier.
I'm not laughing at what you're saying. I'm laughing because as soon as you said you and your colleagues, he grabbed his clipboard and he's got this table, and they're all sitting at the table like, okay. He's so funny when he does that. He's giving, and now I'm getting chills again. I know. He's great. He's got to lighten the mood.
I just got chills too.
Me too.
So, wow.
Me too. Wow. So you're asking about what his opinion is or what he thinks about the things going on in the world right now, right?
Yeah. Right. With humanity, why is all this happening? Why does it seem like everything is so chaotic? And why suddenly does the United States seem to have been turned on its head? What's going on there?
Well, again, this is a perspective in a way, because you can look at it from a spiritual perspective, which I always see anything political that way. Most things I try to see in that way now. It's taken me a long time to get here, of course, and I still have my times, right? Because I have a human experience still to continue. But he's saying that there's a perspective that you can take, and you can look at it as when things get, and this is with anything, even in someone's personal life, when things get like they're pretty hard, or they're pretty big, like as in a mess, a fight, or I'm trying to see how we can explain this. Like, give me a way to explain it. So he's saying, when you see things like this, feels like it's falling apart. Remember this, that sometimes things have to be torn down to rebuild. Okay, and when things get tough is when things change. So it's always going to bring change. And when you hate, this is important because there's a lot of hate out there right now. I hate in what's being done. I hate in maybe who's making decisions or choices. I hate in, and I don't have an opinion either way, by the way, me, Ginger, because I see the whole big picture from the other side. He's saying they're missing the point when they do that, when they're so lost in that hate. They're blinding themselves to what the true point is. And when things seem like they're tough and they're hard, it's because it causes change. You can't have change without it, he says, unfortunately. You can't have change without things getting tough, without things, and that's a word you want to use, blowing up, okay? Without things falling apart, without fighting, I guess. But he's not saying fighting is necessary for change, but he's saying that there has to be some kind of conflict, is what he's saying, for this. Now, eventually we will get past this. Our humankind will evolve past that. But right now it's where we're still at, he's saying. So a better way to look at it as find spiritual reasons behind it. And remember that it's what brings change, that's needed. Good change. coming forward.
Personally, what I try to do, because I'm just like the other person, if I make the mistake of watching too much news in either side, it's gonna pull you down. And it just happens. It just naturally
that's
happens.
what it's meant to do. He says that's what it's meant to do.
It's purpose.
It's meant to separate. It's meant to make you feel a certain way. It's meant to change your point of views on things. There's always an agenda now. It's unfortunate because news used to be just reporting the truth. And now, and I'm sure Erik goes, they've always kind of had a little agenda because money's always been the power behind things.
It has been, but they had a responsibility to follow integrity. And that was the thing about some of the old newscasters still that are alive today say it's changed so much. I started to say that from a spiritual perspective, what helps me is to look at what seems to be chaotic as sort of an opportunity that everything has been, everything that we didn't necessarily see or we couldn't perceive happening has now been brought to the surface for us to look at realistically and decide who we as human beings, how do we want to live? What do we want to accept? What don't we want to accept? How will we choose to live? So, that helps me. Then I say, well, somehow, some way, this is probably a necessity for our evolution.
Absolutely. And he also says that when you can't find a reason behind something, this isn't just with worldly views, worldly things going on, but when you can't find the reason behind maybe something you're suffering for, just know there is one and that it's going to bring you to a place that's needed. Okay. It's always needed. There was something else he was showing me too. He's talking about when we have our point of views, like the subjective point of view, right? And he's talking about when you have these beliefs, different personalities, different ethnicities, different religious beliefs, different identities. He says those are necessary. So why are we trying to change? Unless it's going to cause harm, of course, right? That's necessary. Like people, maybe somebody that has, going around killing people or something, like a murderer or serial killer. Okay, he's using that as an example. But it's important to know that everybody is entitled to their own opinions and their own choices and their own way of living. It doesn't mean that there has to be hate. He's coming back to that hate. Like, let go of that hate.
Yeah.
That's not going to fix anything. That's not going to do anything but hurt yourself, like we talked about earlier. That dense feeling. Everything in the world can be scary, but here's the thing. Social media, the news outlets, all of those things are meant to do that. They're meant to scare you. They're also meant to rile.
So let's talk a little bit about spirit communication, because a lot of people want to know about this. How do spirits communicate with us in ways that typically we have a tendency to overlook, or are there subtle signs that are happening all around us and we just either don't see them or we misinterpret them?
Most of the time, you, meaning all people, are getting information from spirit guides, even others that you come in contact with. You're getting information in a way of a feeling, like we have the gut feeling, the instinct feeling. Always follow that. Always trust that as much as you can. And also thought and idea. Okay. It comes in thoughts and ideas. So I always feel like I tell Erik, I don't want to take people's credit away for their ideas, because I got this great idea. But a lot of times that's being, brought in from spirit. And your guide, and it's guiding you. You can never be off your path, by the way. He says you're always on your path, no matter what's going on in your life. Because a lot of people think they're not on their path if things aren't great, but that's not what life is really about, right? I mean, yeah, we can have good times. We have to have suffering to understand joy, right? But a lot of times, if you would just look at things you're going through as it's a necessity and kind of sit with it, instead of resisting, he's showing this resistance humans do.
Mhm.
That resistance is where the struggle comes and where the pain and
Mhm.
suffering comes. But again, that's part of it too. So it can get
Mhm.
kind of like brain, it's a brain twister to me sometimes, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah, absolutely. Um,
contrast, yeah, contrast is part of the human experience.
you know, you catch me saying this all the time, Ginger. You know, some of us have certain abilities, but we won't allow ourselves to accept that we have certain abilities. Always second guessing ourselves. I think what I'm hearing you and Erik say is go from the gut. If it's something that your gut is telling you,
Yes.
that this is really happening, or this is really being said, or this is a message you need to pay attention to, then do it. Just accept it
Right.
and move forward.
Right.
And
Right.
you can certainly tell the difference between a human thought, a brain thought, as I like to call it, versus a spiritual thought, because one is usually negative and the other one usually contains an aspect of love.
Absolutely. And it feels a little different in practice. You know, I mean, I'm not saying everybody go out and do readings on people, but practice trusting it. And the more you practice trusting that, the more it will grow within you, that you'll notice it more. Because it's really about awareness. You're getting information all the time. So it's really about putting your awareness on it and paying attention to the fact that it's not just coming in when you see a psychic medium. So many people think that I'm just getting like word for word and pictures are flowing through my head, but it's a combination of everything, my thoughts, my feelings. I'll hear things here and there. And I've taught myself to pay attention to certain things. And spirit voice, like you were saying, it's different. It comes in with a different, like it feels different. It's a little more subtle, quiet, soft, but even that, even if you don't feel like you can do that, just pay attention to your thoughts and ideas that come in because they mean something. They do.
This reminds me, you're giving this advice. I took a class from Ginger regarding mediumship, and it was absolutely fantastic. I need to take it again because you can see that I'm still not trusting myself like I need to. But you guys need to look up her information on her website, and I'll give all that to everybody later at the end of this podcast. But it's really worth the time. Really worth the time. She's an outstanding teacher.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. I just wanted to say that it's not even about being a psychic medium with that. A lot of people will do this to follow their own, instinct in life and get their own answers to things that are going on. And you have problems going on in your life. Most of the time the answers are coming. You're just not, Erik goes, a lot of times it's not what you want to hear. He's going, you don't want to hear it, so you push it away. But that's where it comes in to accept these things that are necessary for your growth and your journey. And to answer your question earlier, was no, you can't miss signs. You don't really miss signs. It's not about that because they will continue to let you know until, especially if they're trying to get something across, they're pretty good. They're pretty good at doing it. Like, don't turn left, kind of thing.
My guides my guides can be relentless.
Yeah.
Absolutely relentless.
Yeah. And that's another thing they do too. But just know this, that when things happen to you, like say you didn't turn left and you went right, and say you got in a car accident, we're going to use that as an example because of what he said, not turning left. That means that was necessary, and people will go, well, why the heck would I want that to happen? Why do we want to, have something so tragic or severe happen? But it's what you get in the suffering of that and the experience of that that's important, and that's something we will learn more of moving forward.
I think that's important too when things like that happen. I think it's helpful for the individual to ask, well, what can I learn from this? Even though it seems at times such an inconvenience, or worse, such a tragedy, there's a message here. What is it that how is this somehow going to make me a better person?
Right. And also those that are around you. Remember, it's not just our journey. We're connected to others' journeys. So, what does this teach you? Maybe somebody else. And if you don't get the answers right away, especially if you're in the moment, because a lot of times suffering can bring anger. Been there, okay? Chronic pain can cause a lot of suffering, can cause anger, or have the pity parties, right? That's not the state of mind you want to ask that question. You want to ask that question in a state of mind of humility, being humble and open and letting go and accepting. Like, bring it to me. I don't care what it is. If it means that I, have to go through it 500 times, I'll do it. Not that you would, but he's just saying, like, be
Right.
open to what they're going to tell you, even if you, don't like the situation you're in. You want to have that different feeling. That'll help.
So we alluded to this earlier in the conversation, but I think it's really worth emphasizing.
Okay.
And that's talking about fear. What role does fear play in our lives from a soul's perspective? And then why do we hold on to it? Why do so many of us seem to not know how we can release it?
So, well, first of all, fear sometimes is just a part of the human experience. Okay. So it doesn't mean that you have to have it all the time, but when you do, there's a reason. And it's because how can you learn not, it's not to have it, but it's more of the opposite of it, the contrast of it, because we have to have the contrast. So what he's showing me is fear comes from that word control again. We're going to go back to control. Fear comes to that of not having control over something. Not having control over, maybe your child's going to go away for camp or something. We're going to use that one. Is that one? Okay, so we're going to use that one as an example. Your child's going to leave. They're going to go maybe to another country even, or another state. And that's kind of scary. They're young and, there's a fear there, right? Something you can remember this. If something's going to happen or supposed to happen, you can't stop it anyway. So the best thing you can do for yourself and your child, and this is what I've done forever, is put a bubble around them and visualize them coming back, and just know you still don't have that control, but that's controlling how you feel and the energy around them, and it's changing the vibration in a way. But nobody can impede on anybody's life. If you're supposed to maybe have somebody that you love go and they end up in a plane wreck or something, it's not because they shouldn't have went. It's because it was part of the path. So you can't change, and even God saying prayers, God, your guides, nobody can change anything on your path, but they can help you through it with the vibration change. They can help you, they can guide you a little bit. They can't change anything you're supposed to experience. So try to remember when the fear comes into something, that's because you're fearing not having control, and remind yourself you don't anyway. You only have control over how you feel or let it affect you. You don't have control of outcome of things.
So that's one way we can release it. What's another way that when we recognize we're allowing ourselves to hold on to this fear, what's another way that we can release it?
You ask yourself, well, you can do affirmations too. So turn that thought around, turn it into a positive. Your negative thoughts from the fear, turn them into a positive. And then another thing you can do is ask yourself, can I change this scary? Do I have control over it? Can I change this in front of me? But mostly when it comes to fear, just remembering that fear is a very unproductive, I guess is the word he's wanting to use. So like it's not constructive, it's unproductive. It's not going to help anything to fear something because it's not going to change it. So if I'm afraid to get on that plane, bring his plane again. If I'm scared to get, because I just seen something about a plane. That's why this is in my head, I think. But if I'm afraid to get on that plane because I think it's going to go into the ground or whatever, or into the ocean, and I don't get on it, then I wasn't supposed to. Like he's trying to show it like that fear doesn't stop you from having something not happen. Okay. Trying to see what he means by this. Fear doesn't stop what's supposed to happen, because on the way home, you're probably gonna get a flat tire and roll off into the ocean. Sounds so dramatic the way he just said that, but he's showing me like, you're not going to stop what's supposed to happen. So let go of the fear. Does that make sense?
Well, it does. Yeah. And I would even take it a step further and say that because we are such powerful beings, and because words and thoughts make such a big difference, sometimes the things that we fear would not necessarily happen if we didn't put it out there. And we're so sure and so fearful that it's going to happen, we actually manifest that. Is that a case?
Sometimes it is. Sometimes it is. If it's not something that was, because that's free will. Remember, we were talking about how you have your different things that you're supposed to come here and experience, like say losing a child, or having cancer, or all these different things we come here that are set in stone. Then you have the free will, which is all the different directions of getting to that. Okay, it can make a difference on how long it takes to get there, or how quick you get there, how long that situation lasts, how hard it is while you're in it. So you can, along your path, add things like that with fear. But he's saying like sometimes this is perspective too, and like being subjective to it, like that's your opinion, or objective, like that, subjective, right? Yeah, that's your opinion of it. Doesn't necessarily mean that. Like you might feel afraid, and then all of a sudden, now see, I stub my finger, or smash my finger.
I knew I was going to do that.
Yeah, I knew I was going to do that, right? So he says you can, in a way, a little bit with some things, but not all, he's saying. So just want to make sure people know that you're not really creating all these serious things coming in because you thought about it. However, he's going, if you sit and think about something over and over and over and over again, you can create something similar to it. And, to it happening, that whatever you're like stressing about, something similar, where something will happen that will affect you in the way you were feared to be affected by, like, say you're going to have loss or something. You're scared you're going to lose your loved one. And you just keep thinking about it, but you don't lose them, but you do have loss in your life, and then you're going to think, I caused that, right? But what it does is, it's not that it's causing the loss. I'm trying to get how to explain this. He's going, it's not that it's causing the loss, but it is making it worse, I guess. It's making it harder to live. It's making it worse. Does that make sense? He's showing like how this is making it harder for you to live.
Well, yeah, that kind of energy that you're surrounding yourself in would not be pleasant.
Yeah. Right. Like your thought of somebody passing isn't going to make them pass. So you don't really create those things that you fear as much, but you can create situations or that feeling, even though it may not happen, if that makes sense. Is how he's showing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. That's good. That's good to know. So we have about 3 more questions.
Okay.
So this is a good one too. So do souls have relationships or connections on the other side that are similar to those that we have on Earth? And if they're different, how do they differ from what we experience as humans?
They do. It's not like nobody's married. Nobody's married in the spiritual plane. They do have connections. They do have. He's showing me an example of like maybe soulmates, because you can have more than one soulmate. But he's just showing like maybe that soulmate. It's some of the stuff is way over my, like, beyond my comprehension. But he's showing like the soulmates kind of just spending more time on what they're doing together because they vibrate the same, because it's all about vibration, especially in spirit. When you don't have it's about vibration here too, but more so when you don't have the physical limitation, right? Anyway, so he's showing like maybe they're vibrating the same, they're on the same page. He goes, use that for us humans. Thanks, Erik. He's like, for you humans, it's like being on the same page, right? Having the same idea, the same goals. So it would be like a relationship, I guess. They enjoy being with each other, working together, maybe on teaching or helping somebody on whatever planet it is, because there's many other planets. But they're not the same relationships like we have here. Like, we don't need that. We don't need that. We don't yearn for that. We don't yearn for the companion, or we don't need that that contrast with each other, I guess, because we mirror each other as people. And a lot of times we're projecting our own fears or our own insecurities on others. That's a big one, right? We need that in the human experience, even though when you look at it, it's like, this is what's hard. What comes first, the chicken or the egg with me when I look at things from a spiritual point of view and then look at them from a human point of view? It's like, did that, like we were talking about manifesting, did that happen because I was thinking about it, or did it happen because it was supposed to happen and I was thinking about it? So it's hard sometimes to see it in a different, one way, I guess. So he's showing like in spirit, we don't have the same type of relationships here for that reason, for the same reasons, but we do have connection and relationships on the other side.
If you are with a spirit that it just so happens the both of you were together in a physical incarnation here on earth, do you sit with that spirit ever and talk to them about, hey, remember when we did this? Remember when we did that? Gee, I shouldn't have done this.
No, because when you're in spirit, you are that experience. You're all of those experiences. So you don't have to remember them. You are them, I guess, is a way to explain. It's the only way he can explain it to me. So when you're pretty much back to your higher self when you leave here, you know. So in your higher self has its views into all. I don't want to say, look, I used to kind of see a part of it going into other lives, but Erik's like, no, it's more like their awareness, your higher self's awareness in these other lives. So it would be like if I was sitting here and I was learning from a video I was watching, right? And say your awareness is so much, like we talked about souls having that, you know, major awareness, more than we could comprehend here. And their awareness is in all these other lives. So they'd be watching like maybe 100 videos at once or something. That's the only way my human brain can grasp that, you know, and they can change the channel. It's a good point, because they can change the channel. So he's saying that you know it all, like you know everything about yourself, like you are that, I guess. So you don't sit and reminisce with somebody like you would here, because we have forgetfulness, we have nostalgia, we have, you know, all that. You don't have that as a spirit. You just pure love and perfection in a way. So that's why we want to be incarnated.
I like how you referred to being in spirit is like being in our higher selves, because that's the soul in my experience. That is in my belief. That is the soul, and the soul carries the memories of all of your incarnations that have happened forever.
Yeah, and from a spiritual point of view, happening, which I never
like. My and then there's
can't
that.
wrap around that one. Yeah, I can't wrap around that one too much.
The quantum understanding of time, you know, which doesn't exist at all like we think it does. So that's true. So
right.
What spirits wish that we understood about, speaking of time, about the timing of how and when things happen in our lives, things like delays or things we might perceive as a missed opportunity or things that didn't go as planned. What do spirits wish we understood about all of that? And you kind of talked a little bit about it earlier.
Wish that we knew about our, what did you like about our experience? Is that what you're saying? Like wish that we knew different
timing, like the disappointments, like, oh gosh, why isn't this happening? I need this to happen. Or why haven't they called me about getting this job? I really want this job. Or even, oh gosh, I found out yesterday I didn't get the job. So that disappointment. So things not going as planned.
So what he says about that, so advice about that, right? Not their point of view, because they don't have that. They see the whole thing. So he's saying that,
what do they wish that they knew when they were here on earth, or what do they wish that we would understand?
So that, I think that's what was getting me, because they don't really, you know what I mean? They don't really, because they see our journey. They see what we need. So it's not like, oh, I wish they would do this or do that, or I wish I would have. They kind of see it for what it is. They see it for what it is. Like a child riding a bike, they wish that they went and fell off and cut their knee and fell off so many times. But then again, if they didn't, they wouldn't learn how to balance it and stay on. So they're not going to, look back and go, I wish I wouldn't have fell off of that. If you were a spirit, from a spirit point of view, I guess that's how they look at it, kind of. And that's an example. So, but something that is important to know about this is, again, you don't have the control over that. You have to let that go and trust. There's a certain trust that's really hard for us humans. Okay, very hard. Started in our toddling age, right? 2 years old. I can do it. Let me do it. So you feel like I have control over all this. Accepting. He's saying accepting that what comes your way is what's best for you, and not what you want is always best for you. Okay. So an example would be, this is a teenager graduating from high school, trying to pick colleges, right? Wanting a certain one they want to get into, applying at all of them, really needing this one. I really want this one. I have to get this one. And I remember that feeling at that age, because you do feel that way. You know, you're not quite past that yet. Of some maybe, but not most at that age.
Right.
I probably wouldn't do my 20s for $1 million over, but unless I knew what I know now. So it's choosing one of those colleges and really wanting one, right? So, and wanting to make sure that you get that one because of all these things you have in your head that you want. And then it doesn't work out. Okay. You get into a different one. When you get into that one, you find out, wow, they actually had the programs that I wanted and the better professors. And now I met the person I'm going to marry for the rest of my life. I mean, there's all these reasons. So knowing that there's a reason for things happening and remembering that and letting go of what you want, letting go of how you want it to go. Okay. And so again, we're going back to let go of the expectation you put on the end of that result that you're wanting. Let go of that. So that's really important, to not have an expectation on the end of how something turns out, and accepting whatever comes your way, like making a decision. I think we touched on this a little bit, but he's saying, like, if you make a decision and you're so worried that, because we do as humans, I don't want to make the wrong one because I don't want to go through whatever problem's going to happen if I make the wrong one. But there isn't really a wrong one, because you're only going to make the one, that's needed for you. And then something doesn't work out the way you thought it should. Doesn't mean you made the wrong one. You needed that experience. So he says it's real important to change your perspective in that way and let go and trust whatever comes your way is what's needed.
Yeah. Trust with
It's
a
a
capital.
practice.
Trust with a capital T. I think that's one of the ever-present thoughts throughout all of these questions is learn to trust.
You don't really have a choice. I mean, you can choose to sit and worry about it, but in all actuality, it's not going to make a difference. What's going to happen. So why not be calm and peaceful through the whole thing, right? And be excited for whatever's coming your way. Now, this does take time to reprogram our thinking, because we programmed our way of thinking different. Humans do. But be excited, whatever comes my way. I don't know what it is, but it's going to be for me,
Mm-hmm.
And it's needed.
Yeah, and it is. And the fact that you and Erik are helping us to understand that some of the things that we go through are there because we put them in our path to learn and understand from it. But it's the knowing that ultimately it's going to be okay. Trusting that ultimately it's going to work out. Maybe not the way that you thought. And I think it's Darryl Anka, who channels Bashar, says this a lot about making sure that when you make a decision to do something in order to find joy, making sure that you're not attaching that to a specific outcome. You have to accept that this good will come to in your life, and you don't imagine to design what the outcome is going to be. You imagine it turning out exactly what will give you the greatest joy.
Right. And I would kind of tweak that a little bit in a way with what Erik is saying. He's going to tweak it a little bit with, it doesn't always have to be joy.
Right.
So,
right.
We learn from other, from suffering and pain too. Yep. So, but it's going to come if it's needed, it's going to happen. Something else too is, following what is truly your authentic passion or your authentic way, being authentically you, that really does make a difference in going, down the path in your life. You can never be off your path, by the way, because you are your path. Erik says you are your path. You cannot be on the wrong path. It's going to feel like it if things aren't going your way. So we're going to say that again. Things aren't going your way. Remember, it's not about that. You want to look at your way as a spirit, not your way as a human, because your way as a spirit is probably different and going to have better outcome. Even if somebody was suffering through their whole life, and Stephen Hawking, and I'm not saying he suffered his whole life, but I'm saying, look at that. Look at what he accomplished with a wink of the eye. I always look at that as how incredible that is by not falling victim, to your situation or who you are, identifying with what's happening to you in that way and being okay with what comes your way,
Well, and that goes back to what I said about trusting yourself, but living authentically
Authentically. Yeah.
and trusting that, that things will work out the way that they're supposed to ultimately. So
Right.
we're down
Right.
to the very last question. So, and this is an important one too, for sure. If every listener out there could hear one message from spirit directly, what would that be?
So he's saying true proof of change is not outside of you. He's saying it's not in the outside world. True proof of change is you responding different to things. He's saying there's no other reason. He's talking about happiness. He's saying there's no other reason to be happy except for that's the state that you want to be in. It's not about what's out here. It's about that choice you're making to just be happy. Yes, this is a choice, that kind of cliche in a way that, choose happiness, they say that, but it truly is. It's a choice to be happy or unhappy. Again, that's all you have control over, right? Is your choices of you. Change starts with you, by the way, not changing others around you or anything outside of you. That's really important, especially today with everything going on, and the split between people that is, it's hard, it's difficult for people, especially families, splitting families up.
I know.
He's saying that, I'm going to listen to him for a second. He's saying that when you create your reality outside of you, and you have that like self-love and that happiness within you, and yes, there is still a human experience, so no one's perfect, so don't ever try to be perfect. Just be you and know you're okay where you're at right now. You don't have to be perfect. There's no perfection, no such thing. What a boring world that would be, he just said. if everybody was just perfect the way they think they should be, right? So he's saying that happiness will appear in your life because you need it, in a way, or not because you need it, but because you already have it. Like you have it within you. It's not going to be something outside of you. Okay, bringing that in. So then it won't matter. And I've said this so many times, it took me a long time to get there. And again, I'm not anywhere perfect or 100% there. But when the world is burning down outside of me and around me with things going on, remain calm and just step into it like, okay, yeah, got to deal with this, got to deal with that. Kind of just have that mindset in a way of, that's the control. He just said, that's the control over yourself of how you respond and how you react to things. Because you can't change anything, outside your own change this. So be that change. Be the change that's needed. Try to change others.
Beautifully said. That's a great way to end this. I remember one time I was studying, I belonged to a foundation and a place that did a lot of educational, spiritual teaching and physical work called Don Hock. And we would go in and we would greet one another in Korean hellos and thank you for being here. And I remember one of the teachers came to me and said, "Hello, how are you today?" And I looked at her and I said, "Oh, I'm fine. I'm very well, thank you." And she said, "Good, because we have a choice." And I was so shocked. It was the last thing I expect to hear from her.
Right. I love that.
But
love it.
That it took me by surprise, and I've never forgotten it. And I have to remind myself a lot, because most of my life I have been very reactionary, as a lot of us can be in our human 3D selves.
Right.
And understanding that we have a choice. We really do have a choice.
We do. He wants to add something about that. Okay. We all grow up and have things that happen to us. Okay. And he's talking about when you get to an age where you realize there's a choice, which is very young, right? But when you get to an age where you realize what that means, some people don't always, but that choice is to choose whether you're going to be that person you want to be or that person that everything that happened to you is, right? Don't be a product of an environment. You don't have to. You can break that cycle, he says, because a lot of people feel, well, I can't. I was this or that, or it ruined me, and they stay there, victim of that.
Mhm.
So be a survivor, be a survivor of it, and don't identify. That's what survivors are. They don't identify with what happened to them or what's happening to them. They identify with who they're authentic. I'm getting chills now. They identify from head to toe. And I do this because when I do this, this is a centering. I always feel centered, like center yourself on you. This is you, your identity is so important to stick with. Nobody has the right to choose who you're going to be.
Yeah, that goes back to what we were saying earlier.
Yeah.
And just again, I think that a couple of the big takeaways from today's conversation, Ginger, and Erik, is that you have helped us understand the importance of trusting, self-authenticity, and a third thing, choice. I think those are really important things. So,
right.
Gosh, Ginger, this has been one of the greatest episodes ever.
Aw, thank you. I really enjoyed myself.
I hope.
Yeah.
I hope this is something that if excavators in 100 years from now find this podcast, they look at and go, wow, look how forward thinking they were about 100 years ago, or look how they were look at what track they were trying to stay on, and whatever the case is.
This is what Erik goes, this was the beginning. This was like a beginning of the evolution to who we are today. That's what he just said. Because it is all of us, you, me, others, I are the other people who feel it. I have to say that in the work I do, that I have heard more people talk about, I just want to do something that's helping others. More so in the years that I've been on this planet, 50 something years, and age is just a number. I'm not afraid of it. I didn't hear that, right? But in these last 10 years, especially, that's what I hear. And that's evolution, right? We've come far. Instead of being selfish, it's more selfless. And it's going to keep going and evolving. So yeah, and we're the beginning, I guess.
And again, trusting in ourselves that we have that ability, we have that capacity.
Absolutely.
So I can't thank you enough, both Ginger and Erik, for joining us.
Happy to help. My pleasure, his pleasure, he said, always.
Once again, and Erik, on a personal note, thank you for coming to me when I ask for advice too. I always appreciate that and have a great deal of love and respect for you.
He is. He's around you a lot. Every time he says, I hear you.
Yeah, I don't often see him with Evan, but once in a while they'll come in together. I'll be like, wow, hi.
Yeah.
What a great combo.
Yeah, he's going double trouble. He's being funny, like double trouble, double the energy, double the, because of that energy they bring.
Right.
Playful.
So, boy, this has just been so full of wisdom. So thank you again for all of that. And this really has been amazing.
Happy to do it.
And also thank you to everyone that has come here to join us today. And I hope that today's episode gives everyone something to reflect on and to explore in their own personal journey. Yes. Please be sure to like and subscribe and put an emoji in the comment section below, or tell us what you thought of today's discussion. Yeah. So until next time, keep your mind and heart open. And I need to say something first. I'm going to put your contact information in the description box below. Okay. Because I really want you guys to go to her website, because she offers a lot of different modalities that is really helpful. So I want you guys to check out that website when you can.
And I have a sale going right now. I usually have deals all the time, but I do have my spring sale going on till the end of May. For the 60-minute psychic medium.
Even better. Even better. So okay, so back to my sign off. So until next time, Keep your mind and heart open. Keep exploring the deeper layers of this extraordinary life, and we'll see you on Souls on Tap.